We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Viddhishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are studying the Panchadasi, the 10th chapter, titled Nataka Deepa Prakaranam, consisting of 26 verses by Swami Vidyaranya. We have seen 22 verses so far. We have another 4 verses to go. Just a short summary of what we have studied so far. This chapter mainly deals with revealing the nature of Sakshi as self-evident, eternal, all-pervading consciousness. That is the purpose of this chapter. And Swami Vidyaranya reveals this by taking on the process of Anvaya Vyattireka. This is a very famous methodology used in the scriptures, whereby you study all the 3 states of consciousness, remove what is not common in them, retain the common factor, and reveal the truth. What is not common is the identification of the mind in each state. The sleeper eye is very different than the waker eye. The waker eye is different than the dreamer eye. These 3 states are continuously changing for all of us. But throughout these states, there is one Sakshi, one eternal, homogeneous, non-dual Sakshi, which is compared to the light in a dancing hall. Throughout the play on the stage, the light illumines the play. When the play is over, the light still illumines the empty theater. Similarly, the Sakshi, the light of consciousness, reveals to us the play of the 3 states of the mind. And then it still remains in its divine form when the play comes to an end, because the mind has gone into an unmanifest condition. This is how Swami Vidyaranya reveals the nature of the reality. A very ingenious method. And when we study this chapter, we also understand our mind much better. Whenever we want to study the mind, it cannot be done using the mind. It has to be studied by being the Atma, the witness of the mind. Anytime you want to study your mind, you need to say, I am the Atma, I am the witness of the mind. And then you try to study the various functions of the intellect, which is the buddhi, which acts like the doer and the enjoyer in every transaction. You can study the memory, the chitta, which keeps coming and disturbing us. You can study your own emotions, which is all Sakshi Pratyaksham. And the manaha, which is full of emotions. These are the four functions of the mind which we all experience, but the better way to experience them is to be the Atma, the witness, and then see how the mind works throughout our day. It is only in the waking state we can study and realize the truth. In the dream state, the mind, the intellect cannot be used to learn new things. In the sleep state, obviously, this buddhi is sleeping. So what is the choice left for us? The choice is only the waking state. In the waking state, while using our mind, we have to transcend the mind through the study of the scriptures and understand our real nature. So that is a short summary of what this chapter is all about, what we have studied up to the 22nd verse. With that, we will go on to the 23rd verse now. Just an announcement that the chanting you heard when you came into the session was by one of our participants in the class, Mrs. Vijaya Gosla. I requested her to chant and send the recording, which she has done very kindly. We will be using her chanting when we play the verse by verse meanings. Verse number 23.
यद्यद्रूपादिकल्पेत यद्यद्रूपादिकल्प्येत बुद्ध्या तत्तत्प्रकाशयन् तस्य तस्य भवेत् साक्षी तस्य भवेत् साक्षी स्वतो वाग्बुद्ध्यगोचरः.
So what is this Sakshi? What is the nature of this Sakshi? Yadyat rupadi kalpeta. Whatever the intellect imagines, buddhya tat prakashayan, that supreme self is illuminating as the witness. That means all the functions of the intellect is revealed by the Chaitanya. There is one fact which you should remember, that Atma Chaitanyam, the light of Chaitanyam, is all pervading. But only in the buddhi, the subtle mind, it gets reflected. Very important fact which you should know when you want to have self-realization. That is what Vidyaranya is trying to convey in this message. Like you go and present yourself before a wall. You can't see your reflection because the wall is opaque. It cannot reflect the face. You go and stand in front of a mirror. The mirror is transparent. It can reflect your face. So similarly, in the whole body, the mind is the antakaranam, which is made up of subtle body. And in this subtle body, we can get a reflection of the pure Chaitanya, pure consciousness, awareness. And this pure awareness is the life in us. It is the life in the whole cosmos. Remaining in the body, this consciousness helps in our transactions throughout the day, and also illumines our mind in the dream and in the sleep state. So the nature of Sakshi is, it is beyond the grasp of speech and mind. Very important factor. You cannot grasp, you cannot hold the pure awareness with your mind. You cannot hold it because it is the cause of the mind. We'll see that in the next slide. Sakshi illumines whatever the intellect imagines. So the function of Sakshi is what? It reveals all my thoughts. The thoughts are jadam. They are the projections of the ignorance in the mind, in the buddhi. So, but who illumines the thoughts? Because whenever we want to study the Sakshi or the Chaitanya, in advanced text, they bring the concept of vritti. Without a vritti, it's very difficult to claim Sakshi. Whether it is Naishkarmya Siddhi, Shrutisara Samudaranam, whether it is Vichara Sagara or this text, they all follow the similar methodology of introducing the buddhi, introducing in every chapter of Panchadasi, Vidyaranya specializes in the buddhi. Every chapter, you'll find how he analyzes the buddhi again and again in different ways. From the way of Sat, pure existence, he will analyze in the second chapter. With the help of Panchakoshas, he will analyze in the third chapter. With the help of Mahavakyams, he will analyze in the fifth chapter. With the help of the 5 elements, he will analyze in the first chapter. So see how beautifully he takes different factors and then comes out with the same truth that we are all spiritual beings. Sakshi is the locus in which the pot or a space or cosmos is located. Space, pot, objects of the world, they are all objects of the 5 sense organs. There is nothing in the world which is not an object of the 5 sense organs. And whenever there is an object of 5 sense organs, which is a mithya prapancha, which is a superimposition, which is false, it always requires a substratum. That substratum is the Sakshi. That is how you understand our experiences. So the objects of the intellect can be of 2 types. Number 1, it can be perceptions which are brought forward by the 5 sense organs. Or it can be the projection of the intellect itself. Suppose I'm planning my wedding or I'm planning my future. It is your own thoughts you're trying to generate. That is what is called as projections, your concept building, ideation. But suppose I'm seeing at nature, there is no concept building in your intellect. It is just watching, it's just observing. And the perceptions of the nature, whether it's a beautiful scenery, they're all coming and occupying your intellect. and they become object of your awareness. So the intellect has got the Sakshi, which is the observer. Intellect gets the samskaras brought in by the perceptions. It gets the projections of its own ideations. They both are inert by nature. Sakshi's light, when it throws upon that perceptions and ideations, reveal them to the jiva, to the ego I. So you can see that the whole world is actually seen in the intellect in a very subtle form. Even though we feel everything is outside, because the mind is a projection of Maya itself, it's a power of Maya. It divides our experiences into aham and idam, I and the world. So with this understanding that everything which is happening inside, see, when a few weeks ago I said this entire Panchadasi is a amazing text in psychology in understanding the mind. Now you can see to what depths we are getting into to understand this mind, the concept of our buddhi. Sakshi is along with all of them, revealing them. That is why we say it is all pervading. There is nothing in the world which is not pervaded by Sakshi, the light of Sakshi, the spiritual light. Like the sunlight spreads over every object in creation and it reveals the objects outside, similarly, consciousness spreads and reveals the objects inside. One difference between sunlight and Sakshi is sunlight is dependent on Sakshi for existence and illumination, and it is inert by nature. But Sakshi is sentient. Swataha Siddha, it is independent. It does not depend on the sunlight to reveal Sakshi. Sakshi is self-evident. It can't be described because what can be described is basically the 5 perceptions of the 5 sense organs. It cannot be conceived because intellect is in front of it. It is not behind it. Sakshi is behind and intellect is in front. Intellect is the revealed, Sakshi is the revealer. I can't say that Sakshi is here or there. I can't say it's everywhere also, because place or space is an object of awareness. See, these verses, if you analyze in this way, you will find you will be able to go deep into the understanding of Atma, the Chaitanya. Yadyad rupadi kalpayet buddhya taddat prakashayan. Ego I, the buddhi, projects shabda sparsha rupa rasa gandha. These are all the objects. Shabda means sound. When the sound comes to the buddhi, it is the ego I which owns up. Oh, I am hearing this sound. I'm hearing the class. It is the buddhi. I feel the touch. Again, the ego I owns up that touch. Oh, I'm feeling a soft touch, a hard touch. I'm smelling nice food being cooked in the kitchen. Again, the ego I holds it. This is a nice fragrance. Again, the ego I holds it. So everywhere the ego I is the owner of the 5 perceptions. The 5 perceptions are called as arthas, objects. And why is it called adhyasa? Very, very deep concept of Vedanta. It is Sakshi, and these perceptions are mixed together in any experience. There is a superimposition going on between these 5 sense objects and the Atma's light. When the superimposition happens, I experience. Suppose there is no superimposition, as in sleep state, I exist alone as the Sakshi. In the innermost essence, substratum, all of them are jnanam, awareness. Ultimately, it is pure general awareness, which is the remainder, which is self-existent, which is self-evident. You not only hear, taste, smell, but also are aware you hear, you taste, you smell, you see. When you go to a doctor, an optician to check your eyes, the doctor will ask you, can you see the alphabet A? You will say, yes, yes, I can see. I can see means what? I know my eyes are seeing the letter A. I am not only aware that the eyes are seeing, I am also aware I am aware of the eyes seeing it. The correct statement is I am aware that the eyes are seeing the letter A. Or I am aware the ears are hearing the sound. So what is common? I am aware, I am aware, I am aware. The changeless awareness, Sakshi, is always there for you to recognize. Why do I say recognize? Because I am always there in all the 3 states, but I am making an effort to know that consciousness right now. Tadat prakashayam, all divisions imagined by the intellect are kalpanas, illumined by Sakshi. Kalpanas means they are all in the vritti form. They all come into the intellect, into the buddhi, and then the Sakshi illumines each of these perceptions. Swato buddhya agochara. Agochara means it cannot be held by, the buddhi cannot be held, the Sakshi cannot be held by the buddhi. The word Sakshi is used to eliminate that which is not Sakshyam. Sakshi means something which is not Sakshyam. This is the way you define Sakshi. What is not observed is Sakshi. I perceive body, mind, and take it to be myself, which is an adhyasa, which is an error. This is repeatedly said in all the higher texts. Sakshyam is not you. What is seen, what is witnessed, Sakshyam means witnessed. What is witnessed is not you. I am the witnessing principle. When I say this to myself, in my buddhi, cognitively, I'm correcting the error which I have been making for several lives. That is what the Shruti tells us. Ajnanam, ignorance, has remained in my buddhi, in my intellect, for several janmas. And this correction happens, and I can then say, I am the Sakshi. Till the correction comes, the intellect is still opaque. The moment through Mahavakyam analysis, I come to know that I go deeper and say, this is Sakshi, this is the intellect, this is the sense organs, this is the world, this is the buddhi. So this structuring which takes place through the study of the Panchadasi or the Vedas helps us to understand the truth. Words, every word is a negation of the world. Neti neti, Atma, Brahma, no word can touch the reality. These are all just words. They are all sound forms. They are indicating a truth which cannot be described by words. Words, thoughts, signal, manifest the truth. They can't objectify the truth. Like you can objectify a flower. The flower is an object of the sense organ. I cannot put the Sakshi in front of the sense organs and say, this is Sakshi. It is not necessary to describe, objectify the truth because you happen to be the truth, the reality. Which means what? I should tell myself, I am the Atma. Everything else apart from me is the Anatma. Anatma includes the mind and the body. The body is manifest when the mind is manifest. The body becomes unmanifest when the mind becomes unmanifest. When the sense organs are there, the world is manifest. When the sense organs are not operating, the world goes to unmanifest form. In all this drama, in all this play, the Sakshi remains unaffected, untouched by anything, any event which goes on. By knowing this Sakshi's nature, I get moksha. I get liberated from the sorrow because I am not connected with these transactions. This is the way the knot is broken in the intellect. So in conclusion, what do we say about this verse? Buddhi perceives Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha. The process of perception is through Vritti Vyapti and Phala Vyapti. Vritti Vyapti means that Vritti, the thought goes and envelops the objects, which can be the 5 sense objects of Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha. Phala Vyapti happens inside the intellect. When these perceptions come to the intellect, the Phala Vyapti happens in the intellect when the Chidabhasa, the light of consciousness which pervades the buddhi, pervades these sense objects. So Phala Vyapti is inside the intellect, Vritti Vyapti is outside. Externally and internally, they combine together and they give me the experience. The intellect takes the credit and says, I am experiencing, like the moonlight says, I am the light of the moon, forgetting that the light belongs to the sun. It has been borrowed by the moon temporarily. Similarly, the intellect forgets that the light belongs to Atma. Now I'm correcting that error and I'm saying Sarva Sakshi Asti. There is one uniform, universal light of consciousness which lends the reflection to all the minds, like the sunlight illumines all the world. How to grasp that Sakshi? This whole process was explained in Dakshinamurti Stotram. I have taken the whole Stotram before. You can refer to the old notes and old sessions. So in this Nana Chit Ghatodharasthita Mahadeepak Prabhabhaswaram Jnanam Yastu Chakshuradi Karana Dwara Bahispandate. This verse explains the whole process. The 4th verse, a very important verse of Dakshinamurti Stotram. Dakshinamurti Stotram is a PhD in Vedanta. If you understand the Dakshinamurti Stotram, you have got complete knowledge of Advaita. Everything is there. All the concepts of Advaita, the important concepts are there in a nutshell. Sakshi is resolved in deep sleep state. The resolved condition is where we are able to identify that Brahman. This verse says that Sakshi cannot be grasped. It is taken from Taittiriya Upanishad. This idea is coming from Taittiriya Upanishad. Yatho vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidvan na vibheti kutaschaneti. What does it say in Taittiriya Upanishad? It says that all the words, they return back without reaching Sakshi. All the thoughts, they return back without reaching Sakshi. So neither can you use the organs of action, which is the vak, neither can you use the mind, which is the antakaranam, the instrument. The instruments cannot be used. Therefore, how do I know the Sakshi? It can be known only through the scriptures. And what is the scripture I use? Om Brahma Vida Apnoti Param Tadesham Yuktam Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Vihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman Soshnute Sarvan Kaman Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti. This is the most important verse of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which reveals the nature of this Sakshi. And where is the Sakshi? This verse says it is in the cave of our heart. Our heart here means the buddhi. So that is where Vidyaranya has taken this whole verse from. So that was verse number 23. So deep in meaning, in ideas, these are all beautiful verses to reveal our nature. Now let's go to the 24th verse.
Katham tangrumaya grahya iti chenmaiva gruhyatam sarvagrahopam samshamto swayameva vasishyate.
Okay. Katham tadangramaya grahyam iti chenmaiva grihyatam sarvagrahopam samshanto swayameva vasishyate. So here, the Vidyaranya imagines a Purva Pakshi, an opponent, who will ask the question, how such a self can be grasped by me? Suppose an opponent comes and says, this Sakshi cannot be seen, cannot be heard, cannot be touched, cannot be felt, it cannot be smelled. I mean, these are the 5 sense organs which I'm used to in my day-to-day transactions. How do I grasp this? Here, Vidyaranya Swami tells us, he tells the opponent and says, let it not be grasped. You don't need to do anything. There is no action involved. When the duality of the knower and the known comes to an end, automatically what remains is this self. This is a $1 billion statement which reveals the truth. I don't have to do anything. That is why this one line is the basis of the entire Jnana Yoga of Vedanta and the Advaita principle. Very important line. Sarvagrahyo pasamshantau swayameva vasishyate. Whenever there is a duality, and when this duality comes to an end, the duality is always between the knower and the known. In the light of the Sakshi. So throughout the waking state, I am in duality. And how does this duality end? Automatically, that is Prakriti. Tamoguna takes over and brings the sleep. Rajoguna brings the dream. Sattvaguna of the Maya brings the waking state. Tamoguna brings the sleep state. This is what is together. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. They are the three forms, functions of the Maya Shakti. It is manifest in the entire universe. In all the human beings, this Maya Shakti is manifest. Here, what Swami Vidyaranya says is, when this knower-known duality comes to an end, as in sleep state, it is a state. It is a sample. Like in the sleep state, it comes to an end. The duality comes to an end. But what remains is the non-dual principle, which is the Sakshi. In that non-dual principle, in which there is no duality at all, which is what we call it as Sakshi, which is what we call it as Brahman, which is what we call it as God, which is what we call it as whatever name you may give. But it is realized, and it is our own. That is what is said as to be our Swarupam. In the Mahavakya Vichara, by Bhagatyaga Lakshana, you arrive at this truth, where the knower and the known is not there. What remains is Advaita Sakshi alone, which we call it as a self. Why is it called self? Because it is the innermost essence of the mind and the sense organs and the world. So Sakshi is beyond the mind and words. The moment you know Sakshi, it becomes a Prameyam, one of the Tripoti. Sakshi itself becomes a Prameyam, because ultimately there is no separate world. I can't know the Sakshi as an object. I am the Pramata listening to the class. How can I be the Sakshi? That is the question. Suppose, who is the listener now? The listener is the Pramata. Pramata means what? The consciousness together with the mind. That is what is the listener. And this consciousness together with the mind is asking this question. What Vidyaranya says is, you are by nature Sakshi. Temporarily, you are functioning as the Pramata, identified with the mind. Therefore, in the sleep state, you go back to your real nature, which is the Sakshi, which is Brahman, which is the pure self-evident truth. How beautifully Vidyaranya brings the truth in such simple verses of Sanskrit, which we can break it down and analyze and understand. These 26 verses are revealing the highest truth. Very beautiful verses. In the Upanishads, they reveal the truth by the Shastric words. But in this Panchadasi, how that truth can be realized by me is explained, the methodology. That is why this text is very, very important for all of us. Because we don't want to just academically know that there is a Brahman, there is a consciousness, there is some principle. Each one of us wants to realize this truth in us. That gives us the liberation. That gives us the moksha purushartha in this birth. Right now, after the study, you and I can say, I am the Sakshi. The mind has got two parts. One part becomes the pramata, another part becomes the pramana. These are words which we have been using. These words are used so that we can go inside our mind and understand the mind and go beyond the mind. That is why we have to use these terms, pramata, pramanam, prameyam. All these three words will come into play only when the mind and consciousness are together in the vyavaharika waking state. Three names. This pramata is called as the waker eye, dreamer eye, the sleeper eye. The objects, prameyam, can be different. In the sleep state, it is ajnanam, ignorance. In the dream state, it is a world created by the intellect. The prameyam is different. In the waking state, it is the world of panchabhutas, the five elements. As per the pramata, it will experience the three different objects, prameyam, using the three different instruments. The pramanam. But who am I? I am not the pramata. I am the revealer of the pramata. I am the pure Sakshi. Temporarily, I take the status. I means the Sakshi takes the status of a waker. You are the waker. I am the waker. 7.3 billion people are wakers or dreamers or sleepers. But all of them can only claim one thing. Universally, each one of us can claim, I am the pure Sakshi, I am the pure spiritual being. I'm not a human being, I am a spiritual being. This is a great leap in evolution. When you declare to yourself, I am a spiritual being. I'm not a human being. Human being is my lower nature. Spiritual being is my own higher nature. How do I know this? The words of the scriptures. I believe, I have full shraddha in the words of the scriptures. That makes me to own up this truth. So pramanam is always the instrument. Prameyam is the objects which is experienced. Original mind is basically Sakshi, because without Sakshi, there is no mind and there is no world. We drop the pramata status cognitively in our mind. Realization, self-realization is a cognitive process. It is not seeing something outside. It is something inside the intellect. I drop my status of a waker eye and own up the Sakshi. I disidentify from the mind and drop the pramana operation altogether. These are all done in the seat of meditation or contemplation or nididhyasana. When we say, who am I? And then once you have done that, ignorance goes away. Then at any time you can claim you are the Sakshi. But once you have to do it, that is what is called as Mahavakya Vichara. Mahavakya analysis to be done by each intellect by itself. I am is the truth, minus all the operations of the mind. Sakshi is not a pramata, it is pure silence, which I am able to experience in my state of meditation as the pure presence. Tadruk maya katham grahyaha. Tadruk maya. How? Katham. Katham means how. How is Sakshi to be known? How is to be held? Grahyam. Grahanam has got two meanings in Sanskrit. One is to hold. Use the organs of action to hold something. The second grahanam is using the intellect, the subtle body. One is the gross body, organs of action. Another is the subtle body. Grahanam, intellectually you try to know something. Atma, when it reflects in the body-mind complex, is viewed as Sakshi. That means in front of the body, we call this Atma as Sakshi. Like in front of my son, I am a father. Suppose the son goes away to another room. Who am I? I am not a father now anymore. I am a pure being. When I identify with the son, I become the father. I take the role of a father. When I go to the office, I take the role of a boss or a staff. When I put a police uniform, I take the role of a policeman. When I put my coat of a doctor, I become a doctor. I take the role of a doctor. When I put my lawyer's cloak, I become a lawyer in the court. So these are all the roles we play. But who am I without the roles? That is the question we have to ask. These roles are not permanent. They come and go, come and go. I don't experience them at all in the dream state. This role is gone. In the sleep state, this role is gone. In the next body, when I take the whole, completely, this entire relationships all change. But who am I? I am not these roles. I am not the body or the mind which takes these roles, but I am the illuminator. I am the pure Atma. Imagine Atma like your original face. Reflection is like in the mirror. You can relate to Atma only as Sakshi in a medium. What you speak of has origin in thought form. Vrittis, they give shape to the power of speech. In the second chapter, Vidyaranya analyzes what is this speech power. He has a few verses, and then he says this power of speech is nothing but the Maya Shakti of Ishvara. The moment you get up, you're able to talk. What is that force in you which makes you talk? I can talk, you can listen, this conversation, this dialogue is going on. It is through the power, this higher power. I am not responsible for this power. This is the Ishvara's power. It is magnified through a voice box in each one of us as words. All thoughts have origin in perception. Very important statement. You can think about it, contemplate on this sentence. Anytime you have a thought, it is based on perception. If there is no perception, there is no thought. If there is no thought, there is no experience. But I am there. I, the consciousness, am there all the time. So mind has got two powers: perception through the five sense organs, conceptualization. We have seen this before. I'm putting it again now here. Just a reminder, perception is through the five sense organs, and the five sense organs, they are called as artha adhyasa. Superimposition happens at two levels. One, external superimposition through the artha adhyasa. That means through the objects, the superimposition happens. Then the second is when they come inside the mind, it is called as jnana adhyasa. It is a superimposition of jnanam. What is the superimposition? I am the pure general awareness. In that awareness, the specific awareness of the objects are coming and occupying for a certain amount of time. Or it can be my own visualization. My own means the intellect's visualization. When it happens inside the mind, it is called as jnana adhyasa. When it is outside objects, it is called as artha adhyasa. When I come to know these two adhyasas, two superimpositions, I am called as uttama adhikari. Uttama adhikari means I am the highest form of student for Vedanta. In Vichara Sagara text, this Uttama adhikari understands. The Guru explains to him what I have explained to you in the last 5 minutes. The Guru in chapter 4, which is supposed to be for the highest student of Vedanta, with a purified mind, the student comes to the Guru. In the 4th chapter of Vichara Sagara, the whole chapter is for the highest adhikari. There the Guru uses two words, artha adhyasa, jnana adhyasa. And the student grasps the meaning of these two words and tells the Guru, thank you, I have known the truth, and he walks away. That is the power of these words. Atma is the source of all ideations, all thoughts, all imaginations which come into your intellect, they're all from Atma. There is no manifestation of thoughts without Atma. Like, okay, why can't we hold the Atma like we can hold and operate a pair of tongs? With the help of tongs, you can take a few things and put it into your stove. Like that, can you hold? No. Why? Because the tongs cannot grasp the hands which are holding them. Vak buddhi agochara. The Atma cannot be held by the speech or the mind. Because speech and mind, the source for that is Atma. Because the light is illumining the words. Light is illumining the speech, the pure consciousness light. This I have already explained to you. Yato vacho nivartante. What you perceive or conceive is not Atman. Ego is the false subject. I am the eternal subject, substratum of the universe. Here I stands for Atma. Mayeva grihyatam. You need not grasp what you are. You need not grasp Atma. What you need to do is only know the Atma. Sarva grahopa samshantau. It is enough to know what you are not. Suppose I know I am not the father, I am not the brother, I am not the mother, I keep on doing neti, not this, not this, not this. What Swami Vidyaranya and what the Upanishad says, that is enough. Once you have dropped everything from your object of awareness, What remains is the pure awareness. You, the Atma, will ever be the unknown, unknowable reality. The reality can never be known by itself, by some instrument or the other. This gives the greatest truth. What is the greatest truth? Being is knowing the truth. Pure being. That is why I say in the end of meditation, just be. Without any thoughts. That is your real truth. Being is Sat and knowing is Chit. So in the Upanishads, they say Sat is Chit and Chit is Sat. They are not two different things. They are two sides of the same awareness principle. And thought does not exist outside the consciousness awareness principle. The whole world, if you understand the thought does not exist, you can understand the world does not exist outside the consciousness, because it is in the light of consciousness in the buddhi I experience the world. Thought's existence is in the consciousness, world's existence is in the consciousness. The locus of the world and the thought and the knowledge of the world and the thought, the locus is Atma, Adharam, Adhishthanam, substratum is Atma. You can't know the Atma, you can only be the Atma. You can be the knowingness principle. Knowing is the same as being. That is why neti neti iti adeshaha. I am not this, I am not that. This is a verse from Vedantic Upanishad, which I have quoted here. Not this, not this. Therefore, what is the truth? The truth is satyasya satyam. That is the word which is used here. Satyasya satyam iti. What is the truth of prana? Satyam, consciousness. What is the truth of thoughts? It is satyam. That is why it is called by a secret name in the Upanishad, in the second chapter of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The secret name as is said as Satyasya Satyam. Atma is described as total negation when all the process of knowing the five sense organs comes to an end. What remains is Atma Swayameva Avasishyate. The secret of Vedanta is in understanding the paradoxes of the verses of the scriptures correctly. I will take these paradoxes next week, because this requires a little bit of explanation. We'll continue from this slide next week. And hopefully, I think we can, this is the 24th verse. We have the 25th verse and the 26th verse. So 2 more verses are there. We'll try and complete this next week. And then I will, if you are interested, I will take a small revision in the end one more time. I have the slides ready. If it's already circulated to you, we'll see how it goes. And if you require it, then we can do a quick revision of the 10th chapter before we take the 3rd chapter. With that, we will close this session. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamathaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. every word is a negation of the world. Okay, there are a lot of thoughts here. I'm just reading your Bart. I'm just reading your comments. Thoughts can also find the origin in inference from another thought, but still, the inferential thoughts, no inference is possible without perception. Perception is the base on which you form the inference. Inference is also thought, it is a form of knowledge. The source of knowledge can be, the means of knowledge can be 6 types, which we have discussed before. Shabda is also one of the means of knowledge. Words are also one of the means of knowledge. So ultimately, without the Sakshi eye, presence of the Sakshi eye, you can't have any knowledge. That is what you should understand as the ultimate. It would simply imply the jiva is deaf and blind would be different. No, it's not the case. So a jiva who is blind or deaf, it is only the instrument which is not working. But his antakaranam is still working. He will still have thoughts. So he will still have knowledge of the world. He will still have internal ideations. So ultimately, it is you should understand that what you should really understand is the basis, the substratum. With the Sakshi principle, you can have all types of knowledges, but without Sakshi, there is no knowledge. So the basis in the I thought is the first adhyasa. First superimposition is the reflection of the pure consciousness falls on the I, on the mind. Okay, Shanmugam, can you unmute everybody now? So, Bart, can you speak now?
Yes, but yes, I understand what you say, but I agree to that. So I'm not questioning that. I'm affirming that. So the
okay,
question
good.
is
very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is then, if somebody is deaf and blind, how he still has thoughts. So if the only base of thought is perception, where does his thoughts originate from? So thoughts is conceptualization. So there are, as you say, there are 6 sources of knowledge.
Yes.
So it's not only perception, I mean.
Okay, a good question. The answer to this comes from the scriptures, which says that this jiva is not his first birth. So he has been born before, he has got perceptive knowledge of the previous births in his mind, in his antakaranam. So even for you and me, our previous perceptions can still remain. Not only that, you see, you must understand what is the meaning of this deafness or blindness. Blindness is, for example, it is a faculty which you are born with. The jiva is born with the faculty of not being able to use the instrument because of a defective instrument. Why did God give this defective personality, defective instrument to this jiva? Because that jiva has to experience the world without forms and colors to fulfill his prarabdha karma, to fulfill his law of karma. he needs a world without the world of sound to fulfill his previous karma, to fulfill his previous fructification of the karmas which are being generated. In the next birth, he will again have a faculty, and again he may have a good eyesight and a good a pair of ears. Even in this birth itself, there could be a chance that maybe his blindness will go away at a particular point of time. Maybe there will be some scientific discovery. He will get to start hearing things. So at a particular period of time, one can be, or a particular birth, one can be blind or deaf, but that doesn't mean that, okay, he still has the feeling of touch.
Yeah.
Now he's able to walk and cross a road. Even if he's blind, he just feels through a stick. He can feel.
No.
And he can still perceive the world, but it is a different type of perception, not the same as you and me. So ultimately, we should remember that the knowledge which comes to us, which is coming from the five sense organs, we are able to perceive it in the intellect through the light of pure consciousness. Don't miss the consciousness principle. The experiences can be different for different people based on the law of karma. Yeah.
No. Shikar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that all.
Okay.
But that's not the question. My question is, you say that perception is the basis of pratyaksha, is the basis of all knowledge. But the scriptures say that there are 6 sources of knowledge: inference, anumana, verbal testimony, shabda, comparison, upamana.
Okay.
Yeah. Postulation and non-apprehension. Anupalabha.
Anupalabhi, yes.
Yeah, so these are the 6 sources of thought, of knowledge, and not only perception. That's my only question.
No. See, what I have said in my slide is that all the perception is the basis for all the inferences. It is not for all knowledges. Shabda pramana of the scriptures is totally different pramana. Whereas for inference, now this is said by the scriptures itself. If you study some of the higher scriptures like Vichara Sagara, like other ones, or in Panchadasi itself, we will be studying the 2nd chapter, where we will feel there is an explanation to this, that inference you can draw, anupalabdhi, anumanam, upamanam, the other 4, the pratyaksha is very clear. It is through the sense organs. The other 4, that is anumanam, then arthapatti, anupalabdhi, and upamanam. These 4 are dependent on perceptive knowledge. There has to be, for example, before you infer, you must see the fire with the smoke at some point of time or the other. So before you postulate, you must be able to infer. You can infer, or you can have postulation based on perceptions. So because the 4 are dependent on the pratyaksham, therefore we say pratyaksham is the basis. Perception is the basis of the other 4 inferences. There are 4 different types of inferences, given 4 names. Anupalabdhi, Anumana, these are all 4 different types of inferences only. They're all inferences. And all of them are based on the 5 sense organs, the knowledge coming from the 5 sense organs. Think about it. You don't need to get convinced right now. Let your mind think along these lines. I'm sure you will be able to accept it, maybe at a later point of time.
Okay.
Okay, vasanas are the karanam. Okay, prajnanam is Brahma. Okay, that's an. Is there any question there, Vijaya, or is it that? Is there any question?
No. I was just trying to reflect on what Bart has actually said.
Right. Yeah.
That, so I think
Yeah,
Yes, you've
vasanas.
answered it. You've answered
Yeah,
it.
yeah. The previous vasanas can be the karanam for the thoughts. That's what you're trying to say. Whereas prajnanam is Brahma. Prajnanam is consciousness is Brahman. That is a totally different plane. It is at a higher level. Okay. Anybody else has any other question?
Shikar, I have some other questions before.
Yeah. Can you ask me what exactly in a short way?
Yeah, you mentioned every word is a negation of the world.
Yes.
But I would say every word, so every word is a combination of name and form, nama, rupa.
Yes.
I would say every word is a negation of reality, and it's an affirmation of the world. So you get my point?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, so why is it stated in the slide every word is a negation of the world?
Okay, the reason is that words are all coming from ignorance. You see, the ignorance is the basis. I am ignorant about my light of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because of ignorance, the ignorance is the basis of the entire waking state. It is the basis for the entire dream state, it is the basis for the entire sleep state. Ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we say that every word which you utter is a negation of the world itself. It's a negation of the consciousness. That is why they say neti neti. Neti neti means you say, this is not Atma. This is not Atma.
Yeah, but now you say it's a negation of the consciousness. To that,
no, not negation of consciousness. It's an affirmation of consciousnness. A word, you see, there are two. When you utter a word, words. What are words basically? It is a power. It is a power of that consciousness. A word. When you utter a word, when I'm uttering these words, what is it? It is a power of the consciousness. Now, this power is Maya. It is covering the nature of consciousness. Whatever you utter, it can be in any language. All words, ultimately, they are covering the consciousness principle in different languages, in Dutch, you know. So you have to take it from a very, very higher perspective.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
Yeah, but that's in my question. I included that in my question, so that's true. But on the lower level of creation, since all world is Maya and all world is an outflow of Nama Rupa, every word is a negation of is an affirmation of the world, and it's not a negation of the world. It's an affirmation of consciousness, of truth, of reality. But on the deepest level, every word is a lakshana to truth, to pure consciousness. On the lower level of creation, on the phenomenal reality, there every word is not a negation, but affirmation of the appearance of the world. Okay, but it's a discussion of two levels. I get it.
Yes.
But yeah, okay.
Okay, you got it. I think you got the answer. Okay. Anybody else has any other question?
Yes, I have another question. So, you also mentioned all words return back from Sakshi and do not reach the Sakshi. That is clear, and that the same applies to all thought. That is clear. And then you said, so the knowledge of reality can only be gained through scriptures. The scriptures are also words. So why would the words of the scripture not return back from Sakshi?
Oh, okay. See, these questions which you're asking, they're all answered. You just have to wait for other chapters. It's all there. The questions is right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But it is coming in the other chapters.
Okay.
See, these are all reasoning questions.
Okay, then I have another question. I'll wait then, no problem. Let's wait.
No,
then I have
let me before I go forward, let me try to explain to you. The words which we use in the Laukika, in the world, they are all basically words which pertain to perceptions. The Shastra, the scriptures, the scriptural words, especially when it comes to Mahavakyam, it is revealing the truth, and it is also a word. It is also mithya. It is also false. But the Shastric words have got the power to reveal something which the mind or the speech cannot reveal. They have the power. Now, why they have the power? Because they are Shastric words. You are, for example, it says, Aham Brahma, you are Tattvamasi. It says, Aham Brahmasmi. These are the words of the scriptures. Now, when I use these Shastric words to reveal my own nature, I find that these words can reveal the truth to me. It is a proof that of the previous jnanis, the people who have gone through this knowledge, they say it is only an anubhava of the scripture. They say, yes, the scriptures are telling us the truth about the world and about me. So through experiential anubhava of the different rishis, we accept what the words are saying. These words are not laukika words. This is the subject matter is not objective science. The subject matter of the scriptures is the subject, which is the self. For the self, there is no, that is why we say the words of the scriptures are the pramanam. Pramanam means source of knowledge. Your question is, how come those words have, they are also words, how come they have this power? We only say it is the scriptures, it is dealing with not the worldly science, it is a science of the subject which lies beyond the mind and beyond the speech. And there exists a source. For example, if you're using ears for a sound, then you can say, yes, it is different than the eyes. Because I'm using the ears, I have heard the sound, I can say, yes, this is a different instrument of knowledge. Similarly, a jnani can use the scriptures and see for himself and experience whether he is able to experience something which is beyond this objective world. If it can prove, if somebody tells you that, yes, I have heard the sound, that is a proof that there is another instrument of knowledge which I possess, which is ears. Here the jnani is saying, I have used the Shastra, I have used the Veda, I have come to know which I have not been able to get revealed through any other means. The proof of the realized people is the proof that Veda, the words of the Veda are revealing the truth about the subject.
Yes, can I say something? I fully agree to that, and I see the point, clear, no doubt about it. This is the power of the Shastras. This is why we study Advaita Vedanta. But then the statement that all words and all thoughts do not reach the Sakshi is not true. There are some words and some thoughts that do reach Sakshi. Do you hear me?
What is it? I missed some words in the between.
Yeah. No, I get.
Yeah. What you're saying is, okay, laukika words are not useful for revealing the Sakshi.
Yeah.
Shastric words reveal the reveal the Sakshi. This is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But they're still words.
Yeah, they are words, but they have the power to reveal something
exactly,
which the Laukika words do not have.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Thank you. Yes, Shama, tell me.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting discussion. I would just tend to just throw in an analogy, whether that looks appropriate, where, so going beyond, there were two things which I wanted to respond to about discussion which is initiated. One is about the perception. So all knowledge need not really be from direct perception itself. For example, people like Helen Keller and all that with huge amount of sensory deficit. So there is that kind of an internal knowledge. So we may have a sight, but we may not have a vision, you know? So, or what we describe it as cognitive blindness. Or we can have all the words, all the perception, and we can be completely spiritually blind. Yeah.
Yes.
So therefore, that is a distinction in terms of perception, you know, that it doesn't necessarily relate to sensory input, because there is a lot more happening beyond that. The second thing which I just wanted to mention was whether we can, you know, this particular Taittiriya Upanishad, Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasasaha, you know, where the words turn back on themselves, you know. So when you're finally reached, to me, it appears as if, you know, you're going through this very, very deep, dense forest during our spiritual seeking. So we've got all these scriptural words, and we are slowly, steadily, we are marching ahead through all this darkness, using all the words and neti, 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 till we come to the edge of the forest, the other side, the edge of the forest. And there suddenly, there is just simply light, you know. So there is a clearing, there is no forest anymore, there are no words, and we have just entered this great pool of light. Now, some of us would want to return back from that clearing to come and, you know, say, this is what I have seen, because you want to share it. So this is what I feel our rishis have done such great wonders, that they have come back to use the words again, which really, if you're tuned into that same wavelength, we perhaps can understand. If not, the words will probably not have any meaning for us. So this is just a kind of an analogy which occurred, you know. And,
very good. I think what you're saying is, Shama, is very correct in terms of understanding. I think your understanding is good. It's in line with the scriptural thought. The only thing I will add is that the more we learn this in the other chapters, there are a lot of other things which are going to be revealed. You know, we are just in the beginning of Panchadasi. A lot of other concepts are going to come, like Sat Vidya. What is existence? That is so beautiful in terms of these thoughts which we will have. So just wait for the other thought processes to come in. In the other chapters, more and more things will become clearer. And even these questions about this particular verse of Yato Vacho Nivartante will become more clear when we do the other chapters.
Wonderful.
Okay. Any other question?
Shekharji, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is from verse 23.
Yeah.
It's a whatever from the intellect imagines and the supreme self illumines it as its witness, remaining itself beyond the grasp of the speech and mind. Is it something to do with, my first question was, the consciousness throws its chetana on the mind, and the mind generates the thoughts depending upon the object that it has contact. So the consciousness enlivens the mind, consciousness enlivens the object, and the mind grasps the knowledge of the object, and that is how the knowledge comes inside. So is it the same thing as we discussed earlier? So the vritti vyapti happens in the mind. The phala vyapti, after seeing the objects, happens in the intellect. If that too happens for it to understand it, then it says both get resolved because the Atman is beyond the grasp of speech and mind. So taking this as, if at all my understanding is correctly grounded, then I want to ask, from the last session, where you said, Sureshwaracharya said that the self-discovery is actually a phala-vyapti. It's as tangible as pratyaksham. So how does these two relate to me?
Okay, this is your first part is correct. What you are understood is correct. Vritti Vyapti and Phala Vyapti is clear, is very correct. Whatever you have said. The ultimate thing is that about the pure consciousness. You see, that is where we have to ultimately say that there is nothing which can reveal that except the pure awareness telling yourself, this is what I am. This is something which happens to each one of us. We can call it as Phala Vyapti, Vritti Vyapti. This is only for an objective world. When it comes to the ultimate subject, it is that none of this, that is why we say it is beyond Sat, Asat, and it is beyond the mind, beyond the speech, beyond this entire whatever you can think about, whatever words can describe, it's beyond all that. Because one thing you should remember, that it is the Karanam, this pure Atman is the ultimate absolute Karanam, beyond which there is nothing. And everything else which we are experiencing is Karyam. Karyam means effect. So a Karyam can never know the Karanam. You see, it can never go back to know the Karanam. That is why there is in between, there is something called as ignorance, you know. Yeah. There is an ignorance which is from Karyam to Karanam, there is an ignorance. There is a factor which, that ignorance is something which is the end of the mind, end of the intellect.
Yes, yes.
And the intellect.
Yes.
Intellect, this is a fact. Intellect works only when it can conceptualize. Yeah. When the intellect ends, there is a fear in the intellect of losing itself. The ego I develops a fear of losing itself. Intellect, whenever it is losing, when the mind is coming to an end, that is why they say, that is why this part of the discussion of the intellect and what happens when it is jumping into the field of shunya. This discussion happens in second chapter. So again, the answer to you, Vijaya, is just wait for some more additional knowledge which will come in Panchadasi itself. This question of yours, keep it in mind. It will get clarified in the second chapter.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Shekharji.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's been quite some time now. I want to request each one of you to just write to me about meditation. Do you find this meditation sessions useful? I want to hear from you. Just write to me separately by WhatsApp or email. And if there is any improvements which you would like to have in the meditation, or you find this is okay, or we should continue, not continue meditation sessions, just I want to hear from the group. Let me know so that I want to, because I want some feedback on meditations. Please come back to me and send me by WhatsApp or email individually. No need to put in the group as such, but just I want to have a feeling of how these sessions are taking place and whether you are able to practice after these sessions at home in your own independent time, if you are able to use some of these concepts and ideas. Okay, thank you and good night.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you. Hari Om.